There we go. Now it's official. Everybody, thank you. Welcome for tuning in. Got another great episode of Murfreesboro Rotary in store for you today. To make it official, let me grab my cowbell and my gavel here, and we are in business. Happy Tuesday, everybody. We are less than 24 hours away from a mandatory mask wearing in Rutherford County. So I hope you've got your mask ready and get ready to get going. Now that John Kelfie is with us, John will have the luxury of leading us in our prayer, pledge, and four-way test. John, take it away.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let us pray. O Lord, we ask thee to bless these participants in this virtual meeting of the Rotary Club of Murfreesboro, in their home, car, or other venue where they are now. Protect them and all other Rotary members and their families from diseases and accidents. Inculcate those in authority with wisdom, patience, fairness, and understanding as they undertake their duties. Keep all military members, police, firefighters, and other first responders safe from harm. Finally, let us all spend some time being grateful for the benefits and blessings we have received. In your Son's name, Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. I have, whoops.
I got it.
Oh, you got your, I have mine too, so.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. No, that's better. Okay. Our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. 1, is it true? 2, is it fair to all concerned? 3, will it build goodwill and better friendship? And finally, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you, John. I appreciate that. All right, everyone, if you'll be patient with me just one moment, I will play the settings here. Well, if you don't, I was trying to hit the mute for everyone and cannot find it. So if y'all can, just mute yourself real quick. And I'll go ahead and get us started on our business here. Our family, well, first, let me go to everybody raise your glasses. If you're doing your at-home Polio Plus collections, show your pride there in raising money and Rotary's fight against polio. On Family of Rotary, if anybody tuned into WGNS this morning, you heard our very own Trey Gwynn talking about the Rutherford County Library System. Trey did a very good job and spoke a lot about what the library has to offer. They're offering a new feature about resumes. So if you know somebody that's looking for a job change, looking for a job, reach out for Trey or the library where they've got people who can take your resume and let others review it. And this is brand new. I don't even know if it's up and running on the Rutherford County Library website, but just something to think about. Glad to see George Pope joining in us with this. We hadn't seen him in a while, so I'm glad he's joining in. Next, Charlie Teasley, I'm glad you joined us because you've got a birthday coming up on the 24th. Happy early birthday to you. And if y'all don't mind, we're going to head to a little bit of Rotary business here. Pardon me while I share my screen. All right, there we go. The board met Thursday And we talked about our dues for this coming year from July 1st until June 30th of next year. For active members, right now, you will receive an invoice for $65, which covers July, August, and September. So beginning July 1 through the end of September is $65. And that cost covers Rotary International dues, our insurance, and some just standard other fees for the club. If you are Rule of 85 or a young professional, your dues are $125 annually. And again, that covers just basically the Rotary dues that we pay as a club, and those did go up just a little bit. So if you're a Rotary, a Rule of 85 person, it went up $15 for the year, and that's why. We are planning on going back to the Stones River Country Club on Tuesday, September 15th. And one of the reasons is the country club just started having people meet in person there last week. And so they are, for lack of a better word, learning things as they go, a little bit of on-the-job training, if you will. This gives us enough time to find out what it is you want to see at the country club to feel safe, to be safe. And plus it gets us past the Labor Day holiday. I didn't want to start in August, for example, or we didn't want to start in August only to take a day off for Labor Day and then get going back. We just felt it best to start and stay there until Thanksgiving and Christmas. Speaking of, you will be receiving telephone calls or emails from various board members. We just want some basic information. We want to confirm that we have your correct cell phone number, telephone numbers. Speaking of your cell phone, we will be asking, who is your cell phone carrier? That's important in case we send group text out. We need to know the cell carrier so that the group text will work properly. You want to update your email address. It's come to our attention that some people are not receiving the emails or the newsletters, which we've just begun. And we'll confirm the address that we have on record for you, that it is the correct address. Sometimes zip codes change and update, and we want to know that. Let's see. This Saturday will be the other virtual summer leadership series. Last week was the Rotary Foundation, and they asked everybody on the call. It was almost 200 people, and they took a quick survey of all the district grants around the country and the international grants that clubs like ours have asked for. What is the one area of focus that stood out among all the others? Preventing disease. Far and away, clubs all across the country, when they requested a grant, it was to prevent disease. I thought that was an interesting little tidbit of trivia there. But this Saturday we'll be attracting and engaging members both online and hybrid meetings, basically via Zoom or a little bit of both. And so that's what we're doing now. So if you're interested in that or hearing some ideas, let me know and join me this Saturday from 9 to 10:30 in the morning. I'll be honest with you, these do not take the full 90 minutes, and the speakers are very good. Be well worth your time if you're interested. All right, let's see here. Now, for the moment I know you've all been waiting for, this is why you tuned in, and it is Rotary Trivia. Real money's on the line. I need you to send your answers to me via chat because I can download those answers and I can go back and keep score. This is the official way to answer. You can answer both if you feel like it, or if you only know one, just simply input your question there, or your answer to the questions. What was Paul Harris's occupation? And last week we learned that Paul Harris was the founder of Rotary. And when was the first Rotary meeting? I'm looking for the year. I will take month, day, and year, or the month and year, but you're welcome just to answer the year. Here's a hint. We, Murfreesboro Rotary, are in the first month of our 101st year. So you know Rotary International has to be well over 100 years old. So I see some answers are coming in. I've only got, let's see here. Got 7 that come in. Yeah, y'all keep doing your answers via chat. It's at the bottom of the screen. Let me go check mine out. At the bottom of the screen, you see the chat, and don't forget to change it from everyone to me privately, to Phil King privately, because you don't want everybody else seeing your answers. So what was Paul Harris's occupation, and when was the first Rotary meeting? And I'll settle for the year, but if you've got everything, I'll take it. So give it just another minute here. Let's see. Answers are still coming in. All right. Whoops, here we go. Paul Harris was an attorney, and the very first Rotary meeting was February 23rd, 1905. How about that? Did anybody get that right? Did anybody get, I don't think anybody got the full date. So there we go. There are your answers for this week's Rotary Trivia. After tallying last week's numbers, if you were in the lead, then you've got $16 going towards a Paul Harris Fellow, and we've got $16 going towards our NTSU scholarship. And I'll tally this later on and let you know. If you think about it, you do not have to get these answers correct. The sheer fact that you're starting early now, and if somebody were to start later on in the year, you'll have a head start on them for being correct. But now I will turn over our program to Matthew, who will introduce today's speaker. Matt, I'm going to unmute you and take it away, sir.
I guess that the first Rotary meeting was at noon. Need to brush up on my Rotary history. But it's my pleasure today to welcome Justin Crowe as our speaker. A lot of companies and businesses in the world, you have to start at the bottom and work your way up. So if you want to make it big at Waffle House, you have to start by scrubbing toilets, and then one day you can be the president. Justin kind of took that route too. He was a 4-H'er himself, and then started working as an extension agent in Davidson County, which is where I first met him. He had just started off as an agent. I was starting high school. So Justin has known me since I was a wee little 4-H'er and less confident in myself. And a lot of things that the 4-H program helped instill in me are thanks to people like Justin. So Justin, the last time I saw him was in February at our Tennessee 4-H alumni luncheon, and it was great. We were having a silent auction. It was a good time. Little did we know, a couple weeks later, everything would be shut down. In the midst of that shutdown, Justin was applying and interviewing for his job that he has now, and conducting a statewide listening tour and going through all these things and trying to schedule these meetings. So it was an even more stressful time for him on top of normal life. And then he took office as the state program director in Tennessee on June 1st. So any of you who are gluttons for punishment, go become the leader of a state organization with over 150,000 youth members in it in the midst of a global pandemic. But Justin has a lot of great insight to share with us, and I'm glad to turn it over to him.
Thank you, Matthew, very much. I appreciate that introduction. I'm always nervous with Zoom as far as screen sharing. Can you all see just the one PowerPoint slide? Okay, awesome. Good deal, good deal. All right, we don't have to go through the technical challenges associated with that. Well, as Matthew said, my name is Justin Crowe, and I serve the great state of Tennessee as the director and state program leader for 4-H. I will have my contact information at the end. Would love to hear from you all if you have questions or additional thoughts or insight. I'm also long-winded, so he gave me a time limit, a time frame. I asked for one, so I'm going to set my timer, because if y'all are like me, I get off on 14 tangents. So I want to make sure I'm respectful of your time. But did want to spend a little time with you all talking about 4-H, what we're doing, what we've been doing, where we're going. Of course, it's hard to plan too much during a global pandemic, but like everybody else, we are surviving. We're planning to move forward as confidently as we can. With just a show of hands, how many of you all were involved in 4-H when you were younger? You wouldn't mind putting your hand up. Awesome. Okay. Well, that's job security for me. So thank you. And I hope you had a good experience. You know, when I talk to people, they'll say, I learned how to sew my first dress. I learned how to bake bread. I went to camp with 4-H. All of those positive experiences. We've been around since 1910 in Tennessee and continue to grow every year. I'm not going to give y'all a long PowerPoint, but I felt like as I talk, some photos might help tell the story. So this will be majority photos, just for you to see a glimpse into our past and to see where we're going in the future. We started out, of course, as an agricultural and home economics-based program with corn clubs for boys and tomato canning clubs for girls. And yes, we still do those things. We still have young people that are involved in canning. We still have young people that are involved in crop production, but we've evolved over the years, of course. We still have those young people that show their market animals at shows, that go to the county fairs and that show their animals. We have young people that are raising, their cattle, their sheep, their horses, their pigs, even small animals. When I was a 4-H agent, Matthew mentioned I worked in Davidson County. We didn't have a lot of cropland in Davidson County, at least not any that was being tended. And so I had 4-Hers that were involved in the dog project. Had 4-Hers who had small animals in their homes because that's what they had access to. The great thing about 4-H is it really does have something for everybody. We have primarily over the years served, I shouldn't say primarily, but we have done a good job serving rural youth, but also urban. And as you all know, being in Murfreesboro's changed in the past, several years, and it's becoming more urban than ever and fast growing. And so we've adapted to meet the needs of the young people. I don't know how many of y'all used to ever drink from a water hose, but that's not me in the picture, but one of our scenes from 4-H camp. Again, just to show you how our program has grown over the years.
Hey, Justin.
Yeah.
It's not showing the slideshow presentation. It's just showing PowerPoint.
Okay, that's a problem.
If you share this, click on the share screen, or you can
y'all.
You can just advance it through this if you want to click through it.
Yeah, so you can see that. Can you see that?
Yes.
I'm sorry, y'all. I was just talking away. I'm glad Matthew stopped me. So I'll go fast. Corn club for boys, tomato canning club for girls. But again, we still have all of those things we talked about. We still have tons of young people showing livestock. Again, not right now during COVID, but if you go to a county fair, you're going to see young people. They're going to have their animals out there. Attire, dress has changed, some of those kinds of things, but a lot has not changed. We still hold on to those values, those agricultural roots that we know so much about. If I tried to have our 4-Hers dress in those outfits today, they might, send me to the house. But again, I firmly believe and know that we are a wholesome organization instilling family values. I know that y'all's philosophy of service above self. Wow, y'all are so closely aligned with what we do in the 4-H program. I want to talk real quickly about camp. Just out of curiosity, how many of y'all went to 4-H camp when you were younger, by a show of hands? Okay, awesome. So we do have 4 4-H centers. I want to spend just a second talking about our most recent one. If you've not heard of it, the University of Tennessee, which is who I work for, purchased property in Hardeman County in West Tennessee called Lone Oaks Farm, about 1,200 acres. It's a working farm, and we are moving very quickly to make that into a 4-H center. We will have an official groundbreaking this fall and then begin construction on cabins. Lots of great things happen at 4-H camp. Young people learn responsibility. I'll be honest, when I went to 4-H camp in the 4th grade as a 9-year-old, I cried. I wanted my mother. I wanted to go home. I swore I would never go back to 4-H camp. Well, guess what? I was there the next year and the next year, and I've not stopped in 30 plus years. But young people get to stretch their limits. They get to explore things they would have never otherwise had the opportunity to explore. When I was a 4-H agent and I took youth from the inner city of Nashville, They had a chance to go to Columbia to our 4-H center down there and just be a kid for a whole week, swim, go into the creek, all those things you probably enjoyed as in your childhood. We give our young people some of the same opportunities. I want to spend just a couple of minutes talking about some of our opportunities, our experiences. We are all about teaching young people to be better citizens, to be better servants, to know how important it is to be a contributing member of society. And we do that through 4-H project work. People will tell me, well, I was in the sewing project or the baking project, or I showed pigs, so I was in the swine project. We still have all of those things. Kids have opportunities to learn about careers. In this photo here, they're talking to an urban horticulturalist who is talking with them about tree climbing. They are certainly climbing the trees, but they're also learning about potential careers in forestry. You know, we talk a lot about livestock in 4-H, and as of now, you know, many of our activities have been canceled, have been shut down for the year, but young people are still tending to that livestock. They're still raising those animals. They're still getting up every morning and going out to the barn and caring for those animals. It's more than just a competition for our 4-Hers. It's a way of life. It's about learning that responsibility, that hard work, that dedication, knowing that the prize might come at the end in the form of a ribbon or a plaque, but it's all those life skills that they're learning up until that point. Again, we have young people that participate in judging competitions, in shows all across our state. My wife, she and I met in 4-H. She's a huge advocate for our outdoor meat cookery competition. This is where young people actually work as a team to learn about food safety, to learn about selecting cuts of meat, grilling, food preparation, all those things they're going to use throughout their lives. So yes, of course, we have fun, but for our young people, we also throw learning in there as well. And of course, everybody loves a little competition. I'm so proud of the work that our 4-Hers do. We have 4-Hers that compete on judging teams and competitions and have literally gotten to travel all around the country participating in 4-H competitions. Matthew's involved in one of our national 4-H competitions. He leads that effort in Denver, Colorado. We send countless youth annually to that and other national contests where our 4-Hers bring back top honors. I'm proud of the fact that we help prepare young people for life. We help prepare them for college. While it may be a drop in the bucket for some, we give out over $100,000 annually for our 4-Hers in scholarships. I was one of those young people. I grew up in rural West Tennessee. We didn't have money to go to college. I didn't understand how much it took. And I begged, borrowed, and scraped up every dime I had. But I got 4-H scholarships, and that helped put me on the right path. And quite honestly, had it not been for those resources, I don't know where I would be today. Now, I don't want to bore you with too much research, but I do want you to understand that, you know, yes, it is me talking about 4-H. I'm paid by the university to further our 4-H program, but it's not just me. There are some stats here I'm glad to share with y'all via email. There was a study done, a longitudinal study done by Tufts University a few years ago that really looked at, does 4-H make a difference? And you can see some of the data here that, you know, a lot, and this is not 4-Hers, these are just youth in general, that many have never career experienced or thought about going to college. They don't feel prepared for college. They're not interested in going into a STEM career, which we know, of course, is up and coming and of extreme importance. But if you look at that statistic for nationally for youth, and then look at the next one, this talks about our 4-Hers, that our 4-Hers are 4 times more likely to give back to their communities through service, 2 times more likely to make healthier choices. That's not just nutrition, that's drug abuse, etc. And then 2 times more likely to participate in STEM activities. These are not ambiguous numbers that we threw out. These are actually stats that are represented from that national Tufts study. We have the data to back it up. If you're interested, if you would like to read more about that and that program, that program of study, glad to share it with you. But 4-H does work. 4-H is life-changing for so many people. Yes, of course, I'm paid to say that, but I have lots of products. Matthew's one of them that can show you truly the difference that 4-H makes. Now, I've talked a little bit about how 4-H makes a difference. If you wouldn't mind, I know how invested Rotary is in the community and the service that you all do. I'd like to share a couple of stories with you, if you don't mind, some short anecdotal stories that I think will help resonate the impact that 4-H has. First one's about 4-H camp. I changed the name of the young person, but we'll call him Billy. So Billy wanted to go to 4-H camp. He was a 4th grader in Davidson County when I was the agent there. And we had one scholarship we were able to give for a young person to go to camp. So Billy applied for that scholarship and got it. Well, when it came time to call Billy's mother to let him know that he had gotten the scholarship, we called her work number, and Billy's mother was a single mother, and she worked for one of those 1-900 numbers, if you know what I mean. That was the way, not passing judgment, but that's how she got money to care for her son. So we couldn't reach her through that avenue, so we called the school assistant principal and asked if he would go out to Billy's home to let Billy know he had gotten the scholarship. Y'all, Monday morning before that bus got there, Billy was the first kid at the extension office ready to get on the bus. He was the first person to have his bags loaded. When we got to camp, every activity that opened, Billy was the first one there. I have never seen a young person so excited about 4-H camp. So Wednesday afternoon came and he got homesick. I can relate. I was there, 30 years prior. Billy got homesick and wanted his mother. And so I got the camp nurse. She consoled him, worked with him, but he missed his supper. I'll never forget this as long as I live. So she asked me if I'd run down to the McDonald's and get him a hamburger, a Happy Meal, if you will, since he missed his supper. And I did that. Didn't think anything about it. I bought kids Happy Meals over the years. Never crossed my mind. It was a $3 deal. So the last night of camp, I sat Billy down and I said, Billy, you understand that someone paid for you to come to camp? Yes, sir. I said, I'd like for you to write that donor a letter to explain what a good time you had at camp. And y'all never forget what he wrote. I still have a copy of it. He said, Dear Dr. Hicks, that was the donor. Thank you for sending me to 4-H camp. We did the 4-H pledge every morning. I got to swim and play with my friends and even got to play basketball. And also, Dr. Hicks, thank you for buying me that hamburger. Now, y'all, that moment changed me. I realized very quickly the things I take for granted as someone who has worked hard, put himself through school, got a paying job. I never thought about what these kids do without. I don't know Billy's story. For all I know, that could have been the first time he had ever had something like that given to him. It's the things that we do in life, in my opinion, that make a difference. The selfless things that we do, not thinking about it most of the time, that we do, that sometimes have the greatest impact on the young people, in my case, that we serve. The next story I want to share with y'all is about a young man, I'm going to call him Daniel, who was elected to serve on our state officer team. And Matthew, you probably know this person, so we'll keep this all confidential in the room. But Matthew got elected to state council. Matthew was confined to a wheelchair. Matthew had some mobility challenges, and he was also legally blind. And so I'll be honest, I had no idea how I was going to serve Matthew. I had no idea what I was going to do because I had never worked with a child who was blind, who was confined to a wheelchair. So I finally just called his mother and I said, I want Daniel to have a good experience in 4-H. How can I help him have a good experience? She said, oh, Mr. Crowe, it's easy. If you'll just try to have a ramp at things, we can push him up on the stage in a wheelchair and I'll travel with him and I can take care of him. She said, I'll have to feed him because he can't feed himself and that sort of thing. She said, and also if you'll have all the print printed really large, he can hold it to his face and he can read it. No problem. Y'all, the year went off without a hitch, no problem whatsoever. At the end of the year, Daniel's mother wrote me a letter, and I'm getting emotional telling you this story. She said, thank you, 4-H, for what you did for my son. She said, at school, the kids laugh at him. They make fun of him behind his back. He has to have a helper that feeds him at school because he can't control his hands and his body when he's moving. In 4-H, he's not just that kid in the corner anymore. He's somebody. Y'all always treat him like he's no different than anybody else. And thank you to 4-H for helping my son be successful. She said, we went to other groups before we got to 4-H and no one accepted him the way you did. My perspective totally has changed over the years when it comes to working with young people. Y'all know this being a service organization. there are people out there that they need something positive in their life. They need somebody that cares, an organization that cares. And I'm thankful to be in a position to lead a program that does just that. The last story I want to share with you is, to me, probably the one that was the most defining of my career. Those of you that were, let's say, in 4-H or other groups, do you remember getting ribbons, maybe at a contest? Raise your hand, a ribbon, or at a fair, at a contest. They're a big deal. I understand that. When I was 4-H agent, y'all, I gave out a lot of ribbons, a whole lot of ribbons. I mean, thousands of them. And so I remember vividly going to Goodlettsville Elementary School in North Davidson County to a 4th grade classroom, and a little girl gave her speech. It was on, or her demonstration rather, it was on how to bake brownies. And she did a good job. Well, she got 2nd place, the red ribbon. And at that time, when I gave the young person her ribbon, she tied it around her belt loop. And y'all, she was parading around, showing all her friends. She was so excited. She just was so tickled to have that ribbon. In fact, I've never seen a young person so excited about a ribbon. So when 4-H ended and those kids went outside to PE, I pulled the teacher aside and I said, "What's her story?" I said, "I've given out thousands of ribbons." And to be very honest with y'all, to me, it was a 25-cent ribbon. I'm being honest. I've given out thousands of them. You know, yes, every kid was important, but I was just about making sure every kid got their ribbon and moving on to the next thing. I had kind of become okay with the status quo. So I said, "What's her story?" She said, "Oh, Mr. Crowe," she said, "that child's homeless. That child and her mother live under a bridge in Rivergate. That little girl went to the homeless shelter last night where the workers at the homeless shelter donated all the items she needed so she could participate in 4-H Club with you today." She said, "Mr. Crowe, you gave that little girl a lot more than a 25-cent ribbon." Now, y'all, I get chills telling that story, and I've told that story a lot. That's the power, and y'all know this. I'm preaching to the choir. That's the power of putting other people ahead of yourself. That's the power of making everybody feel important, because everybody has a right to feel valued. Everybody has a right to feel important. And I'm proud to work for an organization that does that. We take young people who maybe are on a positive trajectory in life, maybe not, but we give them opportunities. We give them opportunities to grow. So as I wrap up, and I'm glad to answer any questions at the end if you have some. I'm watching my time, Matthew. You don't have a gong or anything, I don't guess, to pull me off the stage. But a couple of things that I'm real proud of. We have a stronger emphasis on the county 4-H program. I came from a little rural county. We didn't have a lot of resources, didn't get a lot of opportunities except through 4-H. It's my commitment to our state that we are going to make sure that the county 4-H programs have the resources they need to be successful, because we have 95 amazing counties out there, each of them a little different, each of them unique, but each of them with tons of young people who will benefit from 4-H. Second is an increased focus on what we refer to in the 4-H world as access, equity, and belonging. Every young person deserves to be a part of the 4-H program. It doesn't matter their background, their socioeconomic status, their income. None of that matters. The important thing is that they have a positive, safe place to call home. And if you can see the little logo, before we were all sent home for quarantine, that was the logo that our 4-Hers came up with that designed our state theme for the year. How timely is that? But for every one of our 4-Hers, it's a place to call home. And then finally, 4-H camp. You know, I believe our 4-H camp is the best deal in town. It's quite inexpensive compared to a lot of day camps that are offered, particularly in bigger cities. But young people, just like me, they learn so many life skills by going to camp, by getting to be a part of something, by being away from their parents for a whole week and having to function and making sure they're putting on a clean shirt every day, or we hope they are. But, you know, learning all that responsibility is something that those young people get to do from 4-H camp. And then finally, one thing Matthew kind of asked me to think about a little bit is, you know, where's the connection? How might 4-H and you know, Rotary perhaps be more involved? And so I made a list of some ideas that I had. First, I know y'all are very committed to service. There are tons of volunteer opportunities with 4-H. We have paid staff in every county, but, you know, we're talking 1 to 3 people typically, 3 being on the higher end. Rutherford County is kind of an exception because they have tremendous county support to be able to hire additional staff. But there are opportunities to judge 4-H contests, public speaking events, demonstration contests. Second might be partnering on service projects. Y'all mentioned what you're doing around polio eradication. I mean, those kinds of things are awesome. You know, ways of engaging those young people. I would certainly invite you, if you ever have an interest in having a youth speaker. We have public speaking participants, and those young people would love the opportunity to come and give their award-winning 4-H speech for your audience, whether that's over Zoom or otherwise. You know, perhaps meet at the extension office and get a tour and meet some of the staff. Y'all have a very nice extension office there in Rutherford County on John Rice Boulevard. So those are some low-hanging fruit things that come to mind. At the end of the day, we're all about helping people be successful, both organizations, and all about service. So with that, I appreciate the time. I don't know why there's a pink line on this screen. I have no idea what I've done there. But anyway, I appreciate y'all. And Matthew, I've tried to watch my time as best I could, but I'd love if you do have a couple of minutes to entertain any questions.
Anyone have any questions for Justin?
Yeah, put the people back on.
Yes, I've got a question. This
Yes,
is
sir.
Roy. So first, I want to apologize for putting no pink mark on your screen. A little
Oh, that
logo
was
showed up.
you.
A little logo showed up on the corner of the screen. I'm always trying to learn my Zoom functions, and I said, I wonder what that does. And yes, I could draw on your screen.
No
I hope
problem.
I hope you can get that off. So Margaret was a 4-H'er. I was not. And we have been debating for most of the time you were speaking, what are the 4-H's? And we think health and home are one, and we're stuck on the others.
Head, heart, hands, and health.
That's it, Miss Nancy. Rock on.
Head, heart, hands, and health. Well, we got 25% on that test question. But we really enjoyed the presentation.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Justin, this is Nancy Smith. How much does it cost to send a child to camp? I didn't get to go to camp except as I was a lifeguard at 4-H camp.
Oh, at Columbia?
No, in Milan, Tennessee.
Oh, well, okay. So I grew up in McNairy County, and I actually went to Milan. That's where I grew up all my school years going to 4-H camp. It's so it's about $300. I will tell you, it depends a little bit on the county, because the counties have to add in transportation and a T-shirt. So roughly $300, give or take, and that's for a full week, Monday through Friday.
So if you wanted to sponsor a child, just call the extension office?
Yes, ma'am. So I don't know that everybody on this call lives in Rutherford County, but I assume if you're in the Murfreesboro Rotary Club, you at least close. So if you do live there, please call the extension office, tell them I spoke at your meeting and you'd like to be more involved. And yes, that was not a selfless pitch to promote camp scholarships, but since you brought it up, that's a great opportunity to give a deserving young person. And then, you know, we have people that give half scholarships. So if you have the, you know, wanted to do a half scholarship or 2 halves or a full one, the extension office would love to talk with you. Thank you for that.
Anyone else have questions for Justin?
Do you have 4-H chapters in all of the elementary schools here?
So that's a great question. I will put that on my list to ask, and I'll follow up with Matthew. I'll be honest with you, as the state director and responsible for 95 counties, I get asked that question all the time, and I have to just go back to the county office and ask. I will tell you, Rutherford County has a huge presence in the school system. They are they have a phenomenal program there with a lot of staff that are committed. But I'll find that answer out, Miss Gloria, and I'll respond back to Matthew, and I'll be glad to also give y'all a list of the schools where they have a presence.
And Justin, I know we have some 4-H alumni. I don't know if they're all from Tennessee, but if you want to give a plug for the
Oh yeah, thank
alumni
you.
friends.
I appreciate that. Yes, thank you, Matthew. So I was going off the list you sent me and totally forgot that. Matthew sent me a comprehensive list of things to consider, which I appreciate. So we do have a program called Tennessee 4-H Alumni and Friends. It's absolutely free to be a part of. I'll be glad to send a link, or Matthew can share with this group. But if you go on Facebook and like Tennessee 4-H Alumni and Friends, honestly, it's open to alumni, whether you're from Tennessee or not, and others that are just interested in advancing the 4-H program. And so if you'd like to be involved, get correspondence. You won't get overwhelmed with solicitation letters for donations or anything like that, but you will be kept up to date with happenings. Matthew mentioned the retreat that we had, or the meeting back in February. Governor Lee came and spoke one time at that. It's a nice event just down the road from y'all in Lebanon. Would love to have you come join us and learn more, connect with folks. But yes, please, if you'd be interested in that, again, no cost, no charge, just a chance to connect with other like-minded folks.
All right. Any other questions for Justin?
Y'all are an easy crowd. I wish all the groups I talked to were like this. Y'all don't ask real tough questions of me. Let me also say, if I could, from a personal standpoint, I sincerely appreciate the fact that y'all start your meeting with a prayer and a pledge. That means a lot to me as an individual. So y'all are awesome. Thanks for doing that, and the commitment y'all have to your community.
Thank you. Real quick, I'm going to share my screen. Where I'm from originally in Mississippi has a county fair that's been going on since 1889. And Justin, while you were talking, I went and found these pictures on the internet.
That's awesome.
And where the picture on the left for the crops, keep in mind, everybody, I want you to think when you go to the country club and imagine those two tables that we get our meals on. The 4-H field crop there is 4 or 5 shelves, and they are 4 or 5 table lengths long. So imagine where we get our food at the club on a normal day. Imagine 4 or 5 lengths of that table, and that's how many fruits and vegetables, mostly vegetables, canned, raw, like you see there. And then of course the kids show their livestock, and this happens every year at my county fair in Mississippi. But Justin, thank you very much. We appreciate that. I'll go ahead and I'll tell you next week, our speaker is Ann Toplovich. She's Executive Director for the Tennessee Historical Society. She'll be joining us. And I'll close out today with this day in television history. In 1968, One Life to Live debuted and went off the air in 2012. Chips, the show based for the two guys on the motorcycles, Punch and whatever his name was, that ended this week in 1983 after being on the air for 6 years. Karen's Song was with Patty Duke. Never heard of it. Only lasted 9 episodes, it said. And then this other show called Hi Honey, I'm Home was even worse than that. It ended after only 6 episodes. But the Arthur Murray Show, which started in 1950, went on for 10 years. And at one time or another, it aired on all 3 networks. So, stop that. And it,
Hey, Phil.
yes.
I just sent you a message about something on here in the chat real quick, but
Yes.
We had
Yes.
Secretary of State Trey Hargett last week, and he talked to us about early voting. Don't forget that's still going on through August 1st. I went on the square last Friday. It was very easy and simple and a very smooth process. So early voting numbers are up, and I encourage everybody to go, especially if you're concerned about crowds of people as we closer to Election Day. And Phil has registered as well. And if you look on his I voted sticker, you'll see a yellow rose, which is good foreshadowing to what Ann's going to talk to us about next week. So,
yeah. And everybody, when you vote, you will be given a glove to go over your writing hand. So when you sign your voting form, you're not using the same pen, ink pen over and over. And then when you go to vote on the machine and punch the button, you were using that gloved hand to vote. And then when you leave, you just take your glove off and throw it away. So if you've not voted yet, just to let you know, and I did it late yesterday after a library board meeting, I got there at 6:50 p.m. Two people in front of me, and took me all of 1 minute. Took me longer to park the car, walk in, than it did to vote. So I encourage you to vote early, vote often if you enjoy it so much. And folks, with that, we will wrap up this week's episode of Murfreesboro Rotary, and I will see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you.